Today, we're looking at Noodler's Kung to Cheng. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Noodler's Kung to Cheng is a purple or violet ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a cross Bailey with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately dunk it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is there is not a lot of hold on immediately, it pushes up, but we do see some light blues, some purples, and then some lighter blues again. It's really quite nice considering I thought that was going to give me more depth than we got when we looked at this ink. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see is this ink after 10 minutes did not budge. Not at all. This is a very permanent ink. How permanent is it? Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it laughed at the highlighter. It made no effect. It didn't turn the extra fine into a fine, nothing. Perfectly good as an ink for note takers. Water had no effect. It didn't even know it was there, but we sort of expected that based on the chromatography. Now, pen flush started to move some of the ink out of the way. Not a lot of it. You really, you see it have spread, but it doesn't look like it even came off of the smear. This is such a saturated ink that even when it started lifting, it was so much left behind. It's crazy. Pen flush isn't going to do it. And bleach barely got any of it to budge. If you look just to the right and up of the lowercase h, you see the slightest bit of this ink that's coming up off the paper. This ink is not going to move. It definitely makes it into the it's a resistant ink category. Now, let's look at the writing samples. Mark for color correction. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep this writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. Now we have spots up with the 1.1 where it's starting to bleed deep into the paper. Other than that, we have no bleed through. It looks like really minor ghosting. There is some minor ghosting that goes on. The 1.1, we have no feather. We do have spread. It's a thick 1.1 going down. This ink, to me, the performance is off. I don't know. It's off when we're talking about more, a thicker nib. And we're going to see that throughout this whole writing sample. That 1.1, yes, there's spread. There's no feather, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, and 6 seconds to dry again. Exact same dry time. Very fast dry time. Really consistent color, except the 1.1 where it went down really thick like it was coming out of a marker or something. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. And the smear test, there is no way in Hades you get to recover this if you smear it. And that ought to tell you how certain things are going to go. Tomoe River. We have spots where it's getting ready to start bleeding through up at the top here.
again with the 1.1. Other than that, we have no real bleeding. We do have a ton of ghosting. The 1.1, this is the most interesting this color's ever going to look. It's got this, like, the red undertone really shows. That's what it is. The red undertone really shows here. Shows pretty nice in this case. Let's get that focus and the framing better. There we go. Other than that, the 1.1, it does have some spread. It's got no feather, no halo, no sheen, no shade, but it does spread. This ink just, on the wet pens, spreads. Extra fine. No halo, don't mind me. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds to dry. Make a note of the pen that this needs. This, I think, needs an extra fine nib. Dry. Because I'm taking notes with a Cross Bailey, a medium nib, and it kind of bleeds the page. Spot bleeds all over. The medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. The smear test, there's no way you get to recover this ink if you smear it. Rhodia, the 1.1 bleeds. Now the medium's not bleeding there, but in a Cross Bailey, that's what the back of the page looks like from a Cross Bailey, which is a medium nib. It's a wetter pen than these pens, but look at that. Totally unusable. A complete nightmare. A lot of bleed spots. Serious ghosting. This needs a dry, extra fine. Other than a 1.1 here, we had no other bleeding. We don't really have too bad a ghosting here, but we saw where I took the notes. It's horrible. The 1.1 has some spread, no feather, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 7 seconds to dry. The medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 8 seconds to dry. Same tone throughout. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. And the smear test, you can't recover this. It's, ew, I just don't like this ink. What can we make it nicer with different toned papers? Maybe. Yellow Rhodia, we still get some bleeding with the 1.1. We see some spots that are occurring in the extra fine and the medium. Some spots where it's bleeding much deeper, but not all the way through. And we still have a lot of show through. Not as bad as we had in my notes. What does it do to the tone of the ink? Well, it actually makes it a little more purple here. The extra fine looks the same. The medium looks a little more purple. So it makes some changes. Not the change I would have expected. The 1.1 has spread. It has no feather, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I don't like how this ink looks. I don't know that I'm going to finish out that sample. I'm going to probably dispose of it because I'm very just unhappy with this particular one. Extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 7 seconds to dry. It is a lighter tone than we got with the 1.1. It is a lighter tone than we're going to get with the medium. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 8 seconds to dry. That's something I will say for this ink. It is a very fast drying ink. But with that, it's always surprising to then look at the smear. The scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium show no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and the smear test, you can't recover it if you smeared it. So white lines paper, I don't have great hopes of this. It actually did not bleed as much as you would expect. It did not touch the page underneath for all of the bleed spots we're seeing. For all of this coming through, the back of the page is unusable. The 1.1 did have spread. It had no feathering, no halo, sheen, or shade. I just don't like how this looks here. Extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry, so it's got that going for it. The medium, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, still only a second to dry. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it. And look, it's almost impossible to smear this ink on this paper. On any other paper, when it's smeared, it became completely unreadable. And then you're not moving it once it's there. Water's not taking it out, bleach is barely moving it. That's all I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Kung to Cheng, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, I was thinking a little bit Joker in how permanent this was, and while this doesn't feel like a Joker purple, I really wanted a bright green. I chose Diamine's Ultra Green for that. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Noodler's Kung to Cheng? The color was average at best for me, and this is a super aggressive ink. In order to get performance that's going to be not eating your paper, it feels like, you might need an extra fine or fine and very dry nib. So if that's the type of pen you would prefer, this could be a great ink for you. It's just super aggressive. That's what I got from it. It made me a little scared when I saw the second chromatography not move at all in 10 minutes. Thanks for watching.